Good morning. Good morning. Yesterday I sent an email. I hope that you got the chance to read it. The story that I wrote about is currently in the news. A member of our congregation, Fred Walters, was arraigned on Friday for a serious crime. Please know I will not talk about this in worship today or any of the weeks coming ahead. However, next week after the service, we will have a response team here to process further if any of you would like to be a part of that. Abstaining from talking about this in coffee hour or in small groups is greatly appreciated. And if you need me for any reason, I have cards up here with my email on it and my phone number. Please feel free to set up an appointment to meet with me privately. That said, before we start this morning, I'd like us just to take some deep breaths. And be present with one another in compassion and love.
Good morning, and welcome to First... Oh, that's nice. Good morning, and welcome to First Parish Brewster. I'm Twinks Hastings, the Director of Lifespan Religious Education. Happy to be welcoming you to our service today with our Interim Minister, Rev. Karen Anderson, and our Music Director, Kaisa Fern. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel midweek. Masks are now optional in worship, although we do have the upper right-hand balcony where we will remain mask required. For those of you who are first-time visitors here this morning, welcome. We are so glad you're here. Please make sure to stop by the welcome table at coffee hour so we can properly welcome you to our community. We only have one announcement today, and that is that of our Christmas fair, which is happening next Saturday. You can find details on the back of your order of service, and we hope to see you all there. Welcome on this morning, which we make sacred by our presence together. A big welcome to people streaming. We are so glad you're here. Let's take a breath together as we open our hearts and prepare ourselves for worship. Today is also the first day in Advent, and if you know me, you know this is my favorite holiday of the entire year. And so I'm going to invite the Fedge family up to light the first candle on our Advent wreath. Many years, thousands of years ago, people in the Northern Hemisphere were thought to have gathered wreaths of evergreen and lit fires as signs of hope in the coming spring and renewed light. The custom was kept alive by the Christians, and by the 16th century, the Advent wreath had gradually spread across many parts of the world. Today, Advent is the period of 4 Sundays leading up to Christmas. It is also the time in the Northern Hemisphere where the days are shortest, when cold settles in, and when people need the cheer brought by the promise of light and warmth. As we light one more candle each Sunday, this Advent wreath symbolizes our waiting experience. Week by week, the candles remind us that fear and hopelessness recede as more warmth enters the world. The flame of each new candle reminds us that more is yet to come. On this first Sunday in Advent, we light our candle for hope. And in the words of a Benedictine monastic, I was just thinking one morning during prayer, how much alike hope and baking powder are. Quietly getting what is best in me to rise, awakening the hint of eternity within. May this candle awaken the best in us, connect us to the eternal, and give life to our hope.
Yeah.
Hard to follow that. I was a kid who grew up in Wisconsin, and every day after Thanksgiving, we would travel to Chicago to see all the lights in the windows at Marshall Fields, if any of you have been to Chicago. And we would wait in line. They had this 4-story tree in the middle of Marshall Fields that you could eat around. And, Santa was there, so we'd wait in line for 2 hours for that. And then we'd look at all the wonderful displays in the windows, and we'd always go to the Berghoff for dinner. The best part about that trip, though, was when I was a kid, there were always Salvation Army buckets on every corner. And my dad would make sure that we had $2 of dimes in our mitten. So we'd go around and you'd get to take a dime out and put it in the Salvation Army bucket, and I loved watching it do that, and all the way down and drop in, and I was so excited about that part. Then when I was an adult, I decided that, I want to ring the bell for Salvation Army. So I called up the lieutenant, and he's like, absolutely. And I get set for the first time. I'm outside this bookstore, and it starts snowing. I got, all snow clothes on, and I'm ringing my bell. I'm so excited. And I'm stomping my feet to keep warm and stuff. And somebody actually brought me coffee while I was there, and, they're dropping money in my bucket. I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. So excited. Okay, second time was not outside. I went to the mall. And I get to the mall, and I'm reaching for the little bell, right? And the lieutenant goes, no, you can't do that here. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do that here? He goes, the mall owners have complained, so you have to use this. Okay, so pretty much I stood there for 4 hours doing this. And I gotta tell you, people came up, did exactly what you just did right now. And the longer I stood there, the more I'm like, oh, God, this is my mental state right now. Okay, so about 10 minutes before I'm done, this guy comes up to me, and he's got a 10-gallon hat on and cowboy boots, and he just starts hysterically laughing, really laughing. Then I'm getting more ticked off about what he's doing. So I'm flipping my sign around, right? And he goes, anybody who would stand there with a sign that says ding dong on it should be duly rewarded. And he takes out his wallet, and in his wallet he has neatly like ordered 5s, 10s, 20s, and 50s. He takes out a $50 bill and he rolls it up and he drops it in my bucket. I think that's why we come to church. We come because when we are vulnerable, right? When we are open to other people's generosity and goodness, we can actually come back to life a little bit, right? But sometimes that is in doubt. That's what happened to me when I was here, right? But then this guy comes along and he puts things, goodness and generosity in my bucket. Sometimes we come to church, actually all the time, we come kind of vulnerable and hopeful and a little in doubt every now and then. But we know that it is the people around us that restore us to understanding humanity as having a lot of goodness and generosity in them. What a great gift that we offer to one another. Welcome to our celebration of life. Please rise before our first hymn and greet your neighbor. That was awesome. I know. All right. Could you please gather yourselves a little bit? And we are going to sing hymn number 1003, Where Do We Come From? I am positive Caez is going to lead us through this.
Yes. Hymn 1. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Am I?
Okay, I'm going to use my big voice. So I want you to repeat each of these lines just to learn the word. This is 1003. Where
Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
now the second line.
Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Good. Now we'll sing the whole thing in a row. No repeating. Here we go.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we?
So sopranos with that.
Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? That took 10 minutes.
So, our chalice words today come from Reverend Scott Taylor, who just happens to be sharing a wedding anniversary with Reverend Karen Anderson today. All of you going to light the chalice for us? Thank you. Think, friends, of the sky, of the stars that dance like fireworks overhead. Think of the trees, budding or bare, and the rivers and rain, all a part of this living, breathing earth that makes our living and breathing possible. Think too, and look at the faces that surround you. What a wonder it is that we don't have to travel this world alone. All of it is a miracle. All of it is a mystery. All of it deserves our awe. And so, may this light we now kindle and this time we now share illuminate the astonishing preciousness of all of it. Please join me in our affirmation. We believe in love. Love is the doctrine of this church. We believe in truth. The quest for truth is a sacrament. We believe in helping others. And service is our prayer. We believe in the sacredness of life. To the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. It is working now. Excellent. Ha, friends, today is the first Sunday in December. So what does that mean? It means a lot of things, actually. But we have Advent, but also what do we change every month? Anyone remember? We had generosity last month. Our theme, yeah. So we change our theme every month. And our theme for this month, there was a big hint in that last hymn, is mystery. And so I wanted to tell you a story about a very mysterious woman. Her name was Athea. And her job, kind of like a superhero, was to walk around the world and listen for people who were fighting or arguing and try and help them solve their arguments. So on this day, she was walking through a town, looked a little like Brewster, I'm not gonna lie. And she was walking along the street and she heard a lot of screaming and arguing and crying coming from a tree on the lawn of a church. And she went over and she said, "What is happening?" And the first person said to her, "I am telling these people what God is and they don't believe me. I need you to tell them that I'm correct." And she said, well, what are you telling them? She said, "I'm telling them there is one true God, and that's who we all worship." And Athena said, "You're right." And then the next person said, "What? No way. I believe there are many gods and goddesses, And I see the divine light everywhere I go, in the trees, in the carrots, in the rabbits, everywhere. God is everywhere, there are many of them. And she said, "You are right." And everyone started to look a little confused. And then the third person said, "Well, no, there is no God. I don't believe in a God. I believe in a spirit or a presence or some divine light, but I don't think there is a God that we worship." And Athena said, "You are right." By this time, everyone was very confused. I thought this woman was supposed to be a wise woman. And then she said, "Friends, doesn't matter if you believe there's one God, many gods, no gods, any other version of God. What matters is that all of these things that you give your heart to, lead us towards a world of love and light and where we can look after each other." And so the villagers looked at each other and said, "You know what? That's probably very wise. We can all have many beliefs. There can be many mysteries in the world. But as long as we are working together to bring more love and more compassion into our world, then it's all good, whatever you want to believe." And with that, I hope the story guides you on your week, and we will light our lantern to take the light of our chalice and all of your love downstairs to our CYM programs.
You have two kids upstairs. Can I borrow this for? Thank you. It's a time in our service where we offer our heartfelt gratitude to organizations in our community that help the least of these. This morning's split plate is with the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project, which was begun in 1993 under the direction of Jessie Little Doe Baird. Its mission is to return language fluency after 150 years of dormancy to the Wampanoag Nation as a principal means of expression. The project represents a joint collaboration among the Mashpee, Aquinnah, Osanet, and Herring Pond Wampanoag. Your offering will benefit this organization. Please know there are multiple ways to contribute to this. One is also by texting on your phone. Let us now take the offering mindfully and gratefully.
The sinking of the sun, the rising of the moon, the dying of the day into mystery, the emerging of the stars, the last glow of sunset, the fading of the light into mystery. There you can sinking of the sun, the rising of the moon, the dying of the day into mystery, the merging of the stars, the last glow of sunset, the fading of the lights into mystery. There you can see the freedom that you ought to feel, the awareness of the sky in your mind. There you can feel the freedom that you ought to feel, the awareness of the sky.
I invite you to join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation, followed by some shared silence. Please get yourself situated in your seat. And take a deep breath with me now. These words are from Reverend Joan Javier Duval. Spirit of life, here we are, living, breathing creatures with minds that wonder and hearts that feel awe. We face questions that we know can't be answered and tragedies that we know can't be explained. May we find patience in all that is unanswered and peace in all that will never be explained. Here we are, living, breathing creatures with open minds and tender hearts. May the living, breathing creatures that we are feel the breath of life moving in us and through all things, bringing us into greater union with the mysterious universe of which we are a part. Blessed be. Amen. May the silence we have shared continue to hold and heal us all. Amen. become a habit for me, something I do every year around this time. I either watch A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, or I take out my little worn-out copy of it that's about this big, and I read it through. Every year, something strikes me about it, something new, something that I didn't notice before. But for the last number of years, there's one passage that just has hit home and I keep coming back to. And it's the passage where Scrooge is met with the spirit of Christmas present. Do you know what I'm talking about here? Does anybody not know this story? Right? Okay. Anyway, goes to Christmas present, right? And they've gone through the whole day, and they get to the end of the day where the ghost is getting old for that day. And it's this that happens. "Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask," said Scrooge, looking intently at the spirit's robe. "But I see something strange and not belonging to yourself protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?" "It might be a claw, for the flesh there is upon it," was the spirit's sorrowful reply. "Look here." And from the folding of the robes, it brought two children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at his feet and clung upon the outside of his garment. "Oh man, look here. Look here." They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, but prostrate too in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features and touched them with its freshest tints, a stale and shriveled hand like that of age had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Scrooge startled back, appalled, having them shown to him in this way. He tried to say they were fine children, but the words choked in his mouth. "Spirit, are they yours?" "They are man's," said the spirit, looking down upon them, "and they cling to me. The boy is ignorance, the girl is want. Beware them both in all of their degree. But most of all, beware this boy ignorance, for on his brow I see that written which is doom unless the writing be erased." Okay, so the reason this passage has hung with me, it started 7 years ago, and honestly, the conditions haven't changed that much. Here's what I mean. Originally, when I read this passage of children representing want and ignorance, it just smacked me hard. I realized it because a Mr. Trump had appeared on the scene. And in my reading, Trump had become the ghost of Christmas Present 2016. Now, unlike the ghost of Christmas Present that Dickens describes, who is both embarrassed and consoling of the children of ignorance and want, keeping them tucked underneath his robe, Trump, it seemed to me, carried the children of ignorance and want on his shoulders like trophies and tools, like Tiny Tim, for God's sakes. Like a steely means to an end. He used them as two ways to feed people's anxieties and worries. So let me explain. Let's start with want. The child of want for me was reflected in Trump's famous slogan, which is what? Make America Great Again. It was in my mind about Trump tapping into people's wanting and hunger to bring back the good old days. And I don't mean just the days of industry in the U.S. or mining or skilled labor jobs, but of course also the days of women and people of color staying clearly in their place. The other child, ignorance, this too seemed to me to be something Trump cultivated and cared for. Simply put, he fed our culture lies. And people believed the lies. So many lies and lies and lies. And while at first I blamed Trump and the cynical leadership supporting him for the growth of ignorance, at some point during Trump's presidency, I started personalizing it and attributing it to his followers. Now, I never fully leaned into this, but I need to admit that a large voice in my head diagnosed our political problems as ignorant people, not simply Trump spreading ignorance. Thus, the reason the Ghost of Christmas Present seems such a perfect metaphor for our current political problems and cultural divisions, just like Scrooge, the frightful specter we were facing was not just a giant, disturbing figure protecting and promoting ignorance and want, but also his children, his followers, so to speak, who weren't just tricked into ignorance, racism, and sexism, but were and are seemingly ignorant, racist, homophobic, sexist, and xenophobic. And let me start this voice in my head a bit differently, okay? A way that keeps with this month's worship theme of mystery. Many people will say that the greatest mystery of the 21st century is not whether or not AI is going to take over the world, or whether or not, there are aliens, or whether or not there's more about this kind of black holes that they've discovered. Many people would say the great mystery of our time is why did and why do people continue to support Donald Trump? I mean, why? After everything that's happened, why is he the presumptive Republican presidential candidate? Now, my answer to this big mystery, should be pretty obvious by now, is due to ignorant, backward-looking, and selfish people. They are the problem. If they just get themselves educated on the topics and work on wanting easy answers, we might rid ourselves of the Trump specter once and for all. Except it turns out my answer to the mystery was wrong. But I first had to run into David Brooks, and I had to get hit by a bus. So here's how I'm going to explain this. David Brooks, first, as many of you know, is an excellent writer and thinker. He's a conservative moderate. He's a smarty pants. I don't know about the pants part, but he's a smarty. And he writes for the New York Times and for the Atlantic. Now, Brooks talks about what he calls the meritocracy we've created over the last number of decades and how it's failing us. I'm going to unpack this a little bit. And you got to forgive me, okay, because I had to read this one article about 4 times over and over again, and then there are like 9 books I could suggest to all of us to really get this better. So I know I am oversimplifying this. Will you forgive me? Yes. Bravo. Okay, first I want to kind of talk about this. It's really a class issue. And that is how he posits this. But you have to throw out all the ideas about class that we used to have. In other words, WASPs were on top, right? White, Anglo-Saxon, rich Protestants who had all the money were up here. They were the upper class. Then you had the middle class, and then you had the working class or poor people, right? Yes, 1, 2, 3. I want you to take that whole idea of class and you're going to throw it out the window, all right? All together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go. Okay, it's gone. So here, the better way to think about this is it's not about moneyed. It's not a moneyed thing anymore. It's an educational thing now. So the meritocracy is made up of mainly professionals with a college degree. To tighten this up, the meritocracy are educated liberal elites. I'm a liberal elite. Brooks, even though he is a conservative moderate, considers himself a liberal elite. And I am talking about liberal here with a little L, okay? Not a big L. And I would venture to guess the majority of us in this room are liberal elites, educated liberal elites. But I don't want to make invisible the political conservatives among us. Most, but not all, Unitarian Universalists are educated liberal elites. Now, Brooks argues that for the last 50 years, the liberal elite have slowly become the ruling class, at least when it comes to cultural dominance. And he's talking about in the media, in academia, and in economics. And throughout the years, we've kind of pushed out opposing views from all of those areas, especially academia, so much so that there is a very low tolerance for a true diversity in ideological views that are held anymore in the academy. Now, in the last 50 years, liberal elites have gained the majority of the global economic power. We've moved from small towns to larger towns or big cities. And they are clustered actually in a small number of zip codes. Basically, New York City, San Fran, London, Boston, Washington, San Diego. Get this. The 50 largest cities in the entire world have only 7% of the world's population, and they hold 40% of the economic activity in the world. In 2020, Joe Biden won just 500 or so counties, but together they account for 70 of the economic activity. Trump won more than 2,500 counties that together generate only 30% of that economic activity. Now, as the educated elite have moved into the political realm, we've brought along a cultural dominance that, as Brooke points out, imposes elite values through speech and thought codes. We've also moved from supporting traditional working class values of unions and trades, and thus those people have lost their political hold and foothold, and further, often an effective kind of influential voice in the common kind of space. In some ways, they've left because their speech, their contribution is, well, kind of rung through the thought codes, you could say, and considered not acceptable. So I know that's a lot to digest and a new way of thinking about this, and then Brooks just kind of whammed me with a couple more things, because he really got to really two big ouches. One is this. As much as we believe in human dignity and classical liberalism, free speech, right? Open inquiry, tolerance of different viewpoints, personal autonomy and pluralism, educated liberal elites haven't delivered with any leadership. Or to put it another way, the educated liberal elites haven't made life better for anyone but themselves. For instance, climate change is dangerously threatening the global population. The income gap has grown to unprecedented levels. Free markets and corporate interests threaten democratic ideals. We've tried to rebuild two countries, Vietnam and Afghanistan, to no avail. And this one, for me, is the biggest kicker. Wealth never spread except to others who were educated. Plain and simple. Wealth basically stayed with the educated. Here's a second thing, which for me feels like, you know, somebody slapped you in the face and you deserved it a little bit. Educated liberal elites talk down to others. This is what Brooks calls a psychic crisis amongst this country that whiffs of smarter than you, more enlightened than you, more tolerant than you. Is any of this hitting a chord? And it's amazing, really. But after decades of people feeling like they have been rendered invisible, people will do anything to make themselves feel visible. People who feel humiliated will avenge their humiliation. White working class voters voted for Trump because they felt heard and seen and known and not talked down to. What they felt and experienced from the educated liberal elites was the opposite, and they had nothing of value really to contribute to the greater whole. And here it is. Basically because liberal elites value education, a certain kind of education, a college education, one that we've made sure our children get or our grandchildren get, because we value that over against almost anything else. And we hold the base of the economic stronghold. We tend to talk in language that is condescending and belittling and diminishing. So much so that there was a study done of Americans that found that 65% of Americans believed that the most educated and successful people in America are more interested in serving themselves than in serving the common good. That's 2/3. The hardest part about all of that is they are right. The economics hold out. We have only served our own, while the liberal elites have held fort. We've served our own. Ouch, 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 right? Ouch, damn. Sorry. And then to boot, we think better of ourselves. After distilling all of this and wriggling with uncomfortability about being condescending, I remembered this line in this where Brooks wrote, "The liberal elites have coalesced into an insular, intermarrying Brahmin elite," which is pretty much saying this: we don't socialize with others who aren't us, like pretty much ever. We don't interact, date, marry, mingle, worship, shop, convene, throw dinner parties, live in the same neighborhoods, watch the same television, join the same neighborhood associations, go to the same corner bar or restaurant, listen to the same music. We just don't. And friends, for me, the one that just like, wow, always gets me on this. The most watched sport on television, the biggest one, that's bigger than football, basketball, and baseball all combined, what is it? NASCAR. It's NASCAR. Take that in for a second. So after digesting all of this, I was feeling a little disheartened and frankly kind of embarrassed. And then I remembered this story and I got hit by a bus. A few months after the horrendous genocide in Rwanda in 1994, a group of reconciliation experts came to help that tattered country, to help the Tutsi, 800,000 of them who had been slaughtered by members of the Hutu tribe, to begin the process of healing and forgiveness. For several hours, those experts conducted their training, inviting members of different villages from different tribes to share their kind of feelings and kind of get in touch with one another. But finally, one of the elders said, "You know, this is all well and good, but really what we need is a bus." And they were like, "Well, okay, a bus, but, like we're talking about stuff that's more important." And they kept talking. And then these people in the room are like, "Bus, bus, bus, bus." And finally, one woman explained, "We need a bus that will start its route in the Hutu part of the region and then drive to the Pygmy part and then drive to the Tutsi part and then back again. And we want to design a bus so that the seats face each other. And we want to have a rule that no one can sit beside someone from their own tribe. And we want to have a conductor who one day is Hutu, one day is Tutsi, and one day is Pygmy. And by the way, we want all the drivers to be women. So you see, I got hit by a bus, right? I love how it comes when you need it most. Reminds me of Jesus' line when he says, "Why do you see the log in your neighbor's eye, you hypocrite? First take care of the log in your own eye to take care of the speck in your neighbor's eye." That's what the bus did to me. It knocked into me the ability to see the log in my own eye. I mean, if warring tribes, you guys, can do unconscionable things to each other, can suggest getting on a bus and connecting with one another, then surely I can sit with a Trump supporter to get to know them a little better. Maybe if I got on a bus with a Trump supporter, it would occur to me to ask them what they are afraid of, and maybe, just maybe, they would give me some version of something similar to what I think both of my grandfathers actually would have said to me if they were alive today. Both of my grandfathers did not go to college. One of them dropped out at the end of 8th grade because he was a farmer and he was needed on the farm. And then he eventually bought a chicken hatchery. The other grandfather dropped out in 10th grade, and it was during the Depression, and he didn't have a job. So he went from town to town looking for a job. Now, at that time, you got to a town, and if there were people that were unemployed already in the town, it was considered loitering. So he said, actually, you spent the night in jail. They fed you, they brought you to the other side of town, and then he would walk 10 to 20 miles to the next town trying to find a job. They'd do the same thing. They'd pick him up for loitering, they'd put him in the jail at night, he'd get a meal, and then he'd get sent on the other side. He did that for 6 months. And then a friend of a friend of a friend got him a job at the Ford Motor Company. Both grandfathers worked hard to make it out of the poor working class. They had made that American dream, right, of moving to the middle class. Now, both of them, if they were alive today, would likely be terrified about the rise of a global economy of farms in Ecuador and Chile and Mexico taking over the previous function of farms in the Midwest. Absolutely, they would be terrified of the loss of manual labor jobs in manufacturing that now are sent overseas, to which they would have lost their livelihood. And the one thing that they were trained for, that they knew, like in their bones, was gone. Now, would there have been racism in there? I'm guessing there probably would have been some. Would they have some xenophobia too? Yeah. Well, except one of them was newly, part of the United States, and so he might have had more compassion. And I think, though, if I could sit them on a bus and ask them about their story, I would see their needs, their wants, not as irrational or as a threat, but as something arising mostly from a true and honest fear of falling into poverty. And a bit of resent, perhaps a lot of resent, that the elites really didn't care. I would have had gotten a better idea about how they wanted and did contribute to the greater good, how their small town mattered to both of them, how they were part of civic organizations and a church that held loyalty for them, and a family strong to their heart. They had plain old wisdom to teach me, wisdom that you cannot get in college. but were essential to working with your hands and learning a trade. So where does all of that lead us? Well, let me begin where I think it's left me. Now seems to me that the deep division in our country are not just about them. It's not just about them that are the problem. Maybe it's us too. Liberal, educated elites, that voice in my head that wants to blame the social and political divisions on other people's ignorance, bigotry, and selfishness, it now has a competing voice. Maybe you should have a second look at your condescension and inability to get close. Maybe you are more of the problem than you want to admit. Or to put it another way, what if the majority of Trumpites and social conservatives reject liberal ideas not because they believe Trump's lies, but because they resent us? What if their rejection of educated liberal elite ideas are partly because they feel and know that we look down on them? What if the change needs to begin with us? So with that new voice in my head, I couldn't help but wonder what might happen if we collectively, as religious liberals, changed some. If we move from demonizing to engaging, if we move from listening without getting defensive and jumping on people immediately for their misstep of speech, maybe they might feel heard and not invisible. If we change from blaming others and remember Jesus' mantra of humility, they might experience of us as less, snotty, demeaning, better than. If we accepted the fact that not all wisdom on trade or economics comes from the academy, but can be learned, lived wisdom, people might feel like they matter. In the end, maybe what the world needs most is for all of us to get hit by a bus more often. Friends, the mystery, though, is solved, right? Not in how I originally thought, but in a way that involves me, involves us in getting out of our, I hate to say this, kind of morally vacuous selves to a more kind, more honest, more humble, and more, committed to the larger common good, not just our good. So buy your bus pass today. Get on that bus and open your heart and mind and see truly your fellow traveler for who they are, far more your companion than not. May it be so. Amen.
Let us take our gray hymnal and turn to 159 and rise in body or spirit and sing together, "This is my song."
A song of peace, for their land far and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my home, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. A song of peace for their land and for mine.
Would you please join hands for the closing words? We're going to do, oh, there we go. All right. Whatever we can do or dream we can do, let us begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. May we ever be bold in our living and in our loving. Amen. Amen.